So now what's the problem? I start typing in here on a blank one, and every time I type, or every other time, sometimes every time, it creates a brand new thing. What's up with that? So what happens? As soon as you start typing, it saves, right? But we're still on just /notes. So the ID of current note changed, because the current note was updated to the new one, which now has an ID. So when note form checks whether the new ID matches the old one, it'll say, oh, nope, you must be changing from one with an ID to a blank one, because current note ID now has an ID, and my URL says no ID, so I should probably blank out the form right now for you. I'm going to help you out. The point being, after we save, we need to update the URL to include the new ID. Make sense? As soon as you start typing, the ID of the newly saved note should appear in the URL. Otherwise, note form is going to keep trying to make the form and the URL sync up. It's just going to keep blanking it out over and over every time you type. So we should use this.props.history.push again to push on that ID. But only if it didn't already have an ID. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a variable, let should redirect, set it to false. Why let? Because I'm going to change it to true under the right circumstances. So if there's not already an ID, we assign an ID, and that means we should redirect. Should redirect is true. Then we can set state and all that stuff to our heart's content. And if should redirect this.props.history.push. I'm going to use backticks because I'm going to use string interpolation, a template string, /notes / the ID of this new note, note.id. So if we do that, if we change the URL, then the form should update the current note. Maybe I don't have to do it here. Let's see what happens if I take that out. Maybe I don't need to set the current note explicitly. Okay, I'm on /notes, so I've got a blank one. Let's start typing. Oh, now terrible things happen. Yeah, maybe I better still do that. Because we actually copy the note before we save it. So it doesn't make it back unless we call that from here. The ID doesn't make it back down to the form. And that stuff doesn't end up happening fast enough. So let's create a new one, new blank one. Start typing. All right, it's letting me type. Can I still create other new ones? Yep, now it's creating new notes properly. So now we have a bunch to delete. Huh, what happens if we delete? Explode. Kaboom. It deleted it. But again, it didn't change the URL. We shouldn't stay on a URL of a non-existent node ID. That's bad. So when we remove a note, and we set the state with the new notes no longer containing that one, we better call this.props.history a .push /notes. So if we deleted one, that'll unload it from the form, so we need to make the URL match the blank state. right? So now I can still load things up in here, but the URLs don't change. So that should be our next order of business. Did we fix the darn? It's hard to tell. Let's get this guy. Inspect. Switch over to React. Hey, it highlights the same thing. So here's the note. Here's the ID of that note. There it is. Notice the URL, hit delete. Oh, shucks. Cannot read property title of null. Note.title. So what's going on here? So notes, square bracket note ID equals null. That means that's still in the list. It's just got a null value, which means we're going to try to get null.title. We have to do that because when we sync with Firebase, that's how it knows to remove it. At which point it'll sync again, and it will properly be removed from the darn thing. But if we update state, the note list might try to re-render before that finishes. See the problem? Another race condition. We're just full of them. If we update the state with the ID being null, we could have a problem. But why did this problem just now occur? How come it wasn't a problem a minute ago? Does doing this synchronously make any difference? Let's go back to a note that actually exists, if I can even get that to happen anymore. Notes. Am I even signed in? Everything's broken. Sign out, sign in with Google, blah, blah, blah. There we go. So who are you again? DZ. Inspect. Switch to React. Dev tools. Here's my ID. Go there. Slash this. Try to delete it. No explode. Did we get lucky? Let's inspect this one. Switch to React. Slash. Delete it. Seems okay now. Strangely enough, if we wait until that happens to redirect, we end up with a problem. Kind of funny. Set state doesn't really need to be a multi-line thing here. But we do need to make sure that's happening in the background before we redirect, right? All right, so what did we fix? Did we just fix delete? Is that all we did? Oh, and save, right. So redirect appropriately after Save and remove.